My hands shake now. The phone feels heavier every Sunday. It's not just the weight of the device itself, you understand. It's the phantom weight of what isn't happening. The calls that don't come. The invitations that aren't extended. The silences that stretch longer and longer, until they hum with the sound of a life receding. A life, perhaps, that feels less and less like your own. I'm Vincent. 72 years young, some say. I say 72 years lived. And for the last decade, I've been mapping, not on paper, but in the quiet corners of my mind, the silent cartography of regret and profound loneliness that shadows so many of us who've crossed the invisible line of 60. I've listened, truly listened, to the murmurs behind polite smiles, the stories tucked away like old letters, never meant to be read. What I've found, my friends, my fellow travelers, is a truth so brutal, so pervasive, it acts like a silent conspiracy against our very souls. The most insidious betrayal isn't against others, it's against ourselves. It's the tacit, unspoken agreement we make, often without even realizing it: my time for real life is over. My stories are just anecdotes for the young, if they even bother to listen. My purpose now is to be pleasant, to not be a burden, to fade gracefully. We internalize the lie that our best days are behind us, that our capacity for joy, for passion, for deep, messy, vital connection, has somehow expired with our youth. We accept the social death sentence, often delivered with a comforting pat on the hand, disguised as care. We become willing participants in our own gradual erasure. Tonight, I won't offer you platitudes or saccharine advice. I won't tell you to think positive or find your inner child. That's the tyranny of toxic positivity, designed to deny our pain, to invalidate our very real struggles. No. Tonight, I offer you a mirror. A sharp, honest reflection. And then, I will show you how to take that ache in your chest, that regret that whispers to you at 3 a.m., and transmute it. How to forge it into a voice that demands to be heard. Not just heard, but felt. Truly. For the first time in years. The enemy isn't just the impatient world rushing past us, with its TikToks and its ever-accelerating pace. It's not just the culture that quietly, insidiously, attempts to make us invisible, to render our experience obsolete. The deeper, more insidious enemy, my brother, my sister, is our own resignation. It's the myth that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, a myth we ourselves begin to believe, a cage we willingly step into, locking the door from the inside. But I tell you, with every fiber of my being, it's never too late. Never too late to break that tacit agreement, to reclaim the vibrant, complicated, beautifully flawed person you still are. Look, you know the feeling. You know it in your bones. Think of a Sunday afternoon, perhaps. The family has gathered. The kids are talking about work, finances, the latest school drama with the grandkids. The grandkids, bless their cotton socks, are glued to their phones, a silent, glowing barrier between them and the world. You're there. You're present. You're part of the furniture, a cherished antique, perhaps, but furniture nonetheless. You listen. You nod. You try to join in. Maybe you see an opening, a flicker of a connection to a memory, a story. You know, you start, that reminds me of a time, back in '68, when I... And then it happens. The slight shift in their eyes. The polite, strained smile. The nod, a little too quick. Oh, that's nice, Grandpa, or that's interesting, Grandma, they say. And before the last syllable has even left their lips, the conversation has already pivoted back. Back to their problems, their screens, their immediate, urgent world. Your story, your experience, your attempt to share a piece of your soul, was not heard. It was processed. It was acknowledged, catalogued, and then neatly filed away. You become part of the scenery again. The warmth of the room suddenly feels cold. It's not anger you feel, not really. It's an emptiness. A profound, aching emptiness that settles right in the center of your chest. You withdraw. You become the observer again. You listen. But you are not heard. You recognize this, don't you? That slow deflation, the silent withdrawal. It happens every time. You're hearing me, aren't you? This isn't just a lament, it's a diagnosis. You felt this. It's a universal language we speak, those of us who carry the weight of decades. And then there's the other kind of humiliation, the one delivered with a smile, under the guise of help. You're at the doctor's office. You've navigated public transport, found parking, or waited for a ride. You approach the reception desk, perhaps a little stiffly, but with all your faculties intact. A young receptionist, maybe fresh out of college, looks up. And then, she speaks. Slowly. Loudly. Enunciating each syllable as if you've just arrived from a planet where verbal communication is a recent, baffling invention. Has your AP point meant AR arrived, she asks. You stand there. You, who once negotiated million-dollar deals. You, who raised children, navigated complex relationships, made decisions that changed lives, influenced communities, built businesses from the ground up. You, who've seen more of the world, experienced more triumph and heartbreak than this young person could ever imagine. And now, you're being treated like a child with cognitive difficulties. Your dignity takes a low blow, disguised as consideration. You answer, yes, it has, and the words come out in a voice that sounds small, even to you. You feel yourself shrinking, becoming the caricature they've projected onto you. That little piece of self-respect, that sense of being a competent, fully functioning adult, is chipped away. Again. Or this. The insomnia comes, a familiar, unwelcome guest, usually around 5 a.m. The house is profoundly, chillingly silent. You get up, make your way to the bathroom. Under the faint, unforgiving light, you look in the mirror. The face staring back is both familiar and strange. The lines etched around the eyes, the jowls, the thinning hair, they tell a story you know, but often don't quite recognize as your own. Your hand reaches up, touches the cool skin of your cheek, traces a wrinkle. And the physical memory that comes isn't of old age, of the aches and the stiffness. No. It's the phantom touch of a past love's hand on that very skin, the warmth of the sun on your face on an open road, the wind in your hair, at 30. It's the memory of a body that felt invincible, a spirit that felt boundless. The question that comes isn't, who am I now? No, it's deeper. It's far more unsettling. It's, where is the person I was? And the only answer that echoes back, in the profound silence of the house, is the sound of your own breathing. Just that. Nothing more. That's the real loneliness, isn't it? Not the absence of people, but the absence of you. The ghost of your younger self, haunting the present. This isn't about being sensitive. This isn't about whining. This is about the slow, painful erosion of identity. It's about being pushed to the periphery, not by malice, but by a culture that doesn't know how to value anything that isn't new, fast, and digitally connected. The modern rush, the relentless pursuit of the next big thing, leaves no room for the nuanced wisdom of experience, no time for stories that unfold slowly, no patience for a voice that might tremor a little, but carries decades of profound truth. It's the fallacy that old people can't learn new things, that our brains are calcified, our spirits dim. It's a convenient narrative for a society that wants to neatly package us away, out of sight, out of mind, until it's our turn to go. But here's the thing, my friends. We comply. We stay silent. We accept the roles they've given us, the cheerful grandparent, the wise but ultimately irrelevant elder, the one who asks how they are doing, but whose own stories remain stuck in their throat because no one asks with genuine interest. We fall into the trap. We believe the lie. We become afraid of being a burden, and in that fear, we become even more afraid of not mattering at all. We become co-conspirators in our own quiet disappearance. This isn't just my observation. This is a quiet rebellion, simmering beneath the surface. Decades of research, if anyone cared to look beyond the headlines, show that the aging brain doesn't shut down. It craves novelty. It thrives on deep connection, on complex challenges, not on childish pastimes or endless rounds of bingo. Our capacity for learning, for growth, for profound emotional experience, isn't extinguished. It simply shifts its form. I've spoken to centenarians, living full, vibrant lives, and their greatest laments are almost never about money not earned, or possessions not acquired. No. Their deepest sorrow is almost always about love unexpressed, adventures avoided, or truths left unsaid. The regrets of silence, of missed connections, these are the weights they carry, just like you. I talked to Elena, 79 years old, just last week. A widow for 15 years, she felt she'd been living in a kind of emotional echo chamber, her memories just bouncing off the walls of an empty house. After she tried something I'm going to share with you, a very simple technique, she called me, her voice trembling slightly. Vincent, she said, for the first time since my husband passed, I felt my story wasn't just a relic. It was a bridge. My granddaughter, looked at me, really looked at me, and asked me a question about my past I haven't heard in years. It was like she saw me again. Not just Grandma Elena, but Elena. The woman who lived. The woman who still is. That's what this is about. Reclaiming you. Reclaiming your name. I am Vincent, yes. But I'm also a fellow traveler. A tired observer who, for too long, just observed. Until the day I caught myself saying, almost unconsciously, no, let it go, it's past my time, when a friend suggested I take up a new hobby, something that challenged me. It was a throwaway line, but it hit me like a physical blow. I had internalized the social death sentence. I had accepted my fate. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. I realized I was not just letting others silence me, I was silencing myself. My hands had stopped shaking from age, they were shaking from the sheer, quiet despair of my own complicity. That was my rupture. It forced me to confront a deep, festering regret, one I'd carried for 50 years, a truth unsaid to a dear friend before they moved away, a misunderstanding that hardened into a chasm. I finally sat down, picked up a pen, and wrote it all out. A confession. A raw, honest outpouring of all the what-ifs and if-onlys. I didn't send it. The person was long gone. But the act of writing, the act of confessing that intimate truth to myself, to the silent paper, released a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying. It was like a dam breaking. The relief wasn't just mental, it was physical. My hands, which often shook with anxiety, steadied. That day, I found a voice again, even if only for myself. And that voice was the beginning of my own silent protocol breaking. From that day, I decided I would learn to force new kinds of conversations, to reclaim space, not by being loud, but by being relentlessly authentic. To turn memory not into a dusty relic, but into something active, vital, something that still informs the present and shapes the future. My future. Your future. I stopped being just Vincent, the old man. I became Vincent, the silent protocol breaker. You see, the yearning you feel? To be validated? To know that your experience with all its pain, its mistakes, its quiet beauty mattered? That wish, before you go, to confess or share an intimate truth, but you cannot find a safe harbor? That yearning is not a weakness. It is a profound strength. It is the call of your authentic self, refusing to be silenced, refusing to be invisible. It is your soul screaming, I am still here. Tonight, I want to give you a tool. A simple, yet profoundly effective way to begin to dismantle that silence, to challenge that invisibility. It's not magic. It's not a miracle cure. It's an act of self-reclamation. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, instead of letting the usual anxieties or the quiet despair creep in, I want you to try something. I want to show you the exact 2-minute exercise I do every single morning. An exercise that stops me from feeling like my life is already over, that makes me feel that my story, my name, still matters. It's a small, daily act of defiance. A quiet rebellion against the whispers that tell you your time is past. It's not about forcing yourself to feel happy. It's about reclaiming your truth. And it will set you free. It will begin to make the phone feel a little lighter again. This lightness, this subtle shift, is not just about a phone. It's about disarming the invisible social wires that have quietly pulled you to the sidelines. It's about dismantling the architecture of geriatric invisibility that has been meticulously constructed around you, often without your conscious awareness, or anyone's malicious intent. You see, your loneliness, your feeling of fading, isn't a personal failing. It's the predictable output of a system, a silent script of social redundancy, designed to make you quietly disappear. This isn't just being old. This is the poison of benevolent ageism, a pervasive cultural gaslight that tells you your diminished relevance is natural, even deserved. But I'm here to tell you, with absolute certainty, that it is not. Now see the social mechanics. This isn't a conspiracy with shadowy figures in backrooms. It's far more insidious, woven into the very fabric of our modern lives. It's made up of countless micro-dismissals, tiny slights that accumulate like death by 1,000 gentle cuts. The quick pivot away from your story. The slow, loud tone of the receptionist. The unasked questions about your inner world. Each one seems minor on its own, easily brushed aside, but together they form a powerful, invisible current pulling you out to sea, away from the shore of relevance. It's implicit age bias, a conditioned reflex of a youth-obsessed society, deeply embedded in our cultural operating system. Your reality is replaced by a comfortable fiction for others, a fiction where you are content, quiet, and unburdening. This is systemic narrative gaslighting, where the validity of your ongoing, vital experience is subtly denied, replaced by a benign but ultimately isolating caricature. Understand this engine of dismissal. We face three core social threats that orchestrate this invisibility. First, the silent permission of familial neglect. Your family loves you, yes. They care. But in their busy, urgent lives, they unconsciously grant themselves permission to not delve too deeply into your world, to not challenge the comfortable assumption that you're fine. It's easier, less demanding, to see you as a stable, unchanging fixture than a dynamic human still grappling with profound needs and desires. Your stories become background noise, your presence a comfort, but not an engagement. Second, the bureaucracy of polite disregard. This is the world outside your home. The doctor's office, the customer service line, the public space. Here, you encounter those who operate under the societal script that the elderly are fragile, slow, or cognitively impaired. Their help is often patronizing, their patience thin, and their implicit message is clear: you are a problem to be managed, not a person to be respected. Your dignity takes a low blow, again and again, under the guise of consideration. Third, the myth of the peacefully retired. This is perhaps the most damaging of all because we ourselves internalize it. Society paints a picture of golden years filled with leisure, hobbies, and contentment. Any deviation from this narrative, any expression of loneliness, regret, or a desire for new challenge is seen as a personal failing, a lack of gratitude. This myth denies the profound emotional neglect that is a silent epidemic among us, forcing us to suppress our true feelings and pretend to be living a tranquil existence while our souls ache for purpose and connection. This is the key to the irrelevance trap. Now, let's talk about the so-called solutions that are constantly pitched to us, those soothing platitudes that only deepen the wound. You've heard them, haven't you? The well-meaning, insidious advice. Just keep busy, they say. Find a hobby. Join a club. This is emotional pain management with band-aids. It's turning down the volume on your soul's cry for meaning while the cancer of insignificance keeps growing. A hobby fills time, it doesn't fill the void where your purpose used to be. It's a distraction, a temporary analgesic, not a cure. The quiet hours of the night still come, and with them, the relentless questions: did my life truly matter? Am I just treading water until the end? Ask anyone who has spent years staying busy if the quiet hours of the night are peaceful or haunted by the question, did my life matter? The truth is, the internal silence can be more deafening than any external noise. You can knit 1,000 scarves, paint 100 landscapes, or join every bridge club in the county, and still feel the profound ache of being unheard, unseen, unvalued at your deepest level. These activities, while providing structure, often fail to tap into the wellspring of your unique experiences, your profound wisdom, your hard-won truths. They allow you to conform to the comfortable narrative of the active senior, rather than challenging the deeper social forces that are trying to make you invisible. Then there's the relentless demand to be positive. It's just aging, be positive. Enjoy your retirement. I tell you, with every fiber of my being, toxic positivity is spiritual violence against the elderly. It exhausts you, forcing a smile while a part of you is screaming inside that this isn't living, this is waiting. True peace comes from confronting the truth, not painting over it with cheap optimism. It's a cruel twist, isn't it? To be told that your very real pain, your legitimate grief for lost connections and purpose, is a sign of your own negativity. This forces you to isolate further, to hide your authentic struggles, lest you be labeled a complainer or bitter. It's a societal mechanism to absolve others of the responsibility to truly see and engage with your suffering. You become responsible for maintaining their comfort, at the cost of your own emotional integrity. It drains your remaining energy, leaving you even more vulnerable to the encroaching sense of irrelevance. You perform happiness, but inside, the erosion continues. Rely on your family, is another insidious piece of advice. They love you, they'll take care of you. While family can be a source of profound comfort and support, this advice often becomes a recipe for resentful dependency. It may give you company, but it can sever the last threads of your autonomy and dignity, making you a guest in a life you built. Love shouldn't feel like charity. The unspoken dynamic here is that your needs become a burden, rather than a natural part of ongoing, reciprocal relationships. You may receive practical help, but the deep psychological need to contribute, to be a vital, independent agent in your own life, often goes unmet. The gratitude you feel is tinged with a painful loss of self-sufficiency. You become the receiver, not the giver, and in a society that values productivity and independence above all else, this role reversal can be devastating to your self-esteem and sense of worth. And finally, the ultimate mandate for surrender: just accept it. It is what it is. This is a mandate for surrender disguised as wisdom. Acceptance is for things you cannot change, like the sunrise or the passage of time itself. Your voice, your story, your need to be seen and valued, these are not things to accept losing. This phrase is the grease that keeps the machine of your marginalization running quietly, smoothly, without a single squeak of protest. It's the ultimate silencing mechanism, telling you that your yearning for relevance is futile, that your time is simply past. It is the narrative that seeks to pacify you into a gentle, quiet decline, convincing you that resistance is undignified or foolish. But I tell you, with every fiber of my being, to accept this is to accept your own erasure, to participate in the final act of your own disappearance. You are not a broken machine to be accepted as such, you are a living, breathing archive of human experience, and your story is not done being told. So, if these conventional solutions are merely sophisticated forms of emotional gaslighting and social control, what then is the truth? How do we break free? The answer lies in understanding the secret mechanism of social erasure itself, the very process that pushes us to the periphery. This isn't a new discovery I plucked out of thin air. This understanding began to crystallize decades ago, in the quiet, often overlooked corners of academia. Gerontologists and social psychologists in the 70s and 80s, long before the digital age, began mapping what they termed the psychic violence of role loss. They observed the devastating impact when individuals were stripped of their primary identities: the worker, the parent, the provider, the community leader. This was cutting-edge work at the time, but it was largely ignored by a culture screaming eternal youth and obsessed with the future, not the wisdom of the past. These researchers documented how the loss of these roles, without a corresponding creation of new, equally meaningful ones, led to a profound sense of meaninglessness and identity erosion. Further evidence came from suppressed longitudinal studies on biographical suffering. These studies meticulously tracked the physical and mental toll of having your life narrative deemed irrelevant by the broader society. They found tangible links between the subjective experience of being invisible or unheard and measurable declines in physical health, cognitive function, and emotional well-being. It was a clear, undeniable demonstration that being unseen literally makes you sick, physically and spiritually. Our bodies and minds are intertwined with our sense of purpose and belonging. When our purpose is stripped away, and our stories are dismissed, the entire system begins to break down. But this isn't merely a modern affliction. If you look back, you find a stark contrast in ancient strategies of elder integration and wisdom transmission, preserved in traditional societies across the globe. These cultures understood, instinctively, that a community that silences its elders is a community that has severed its own roots and is destined to wither. Elders were not just respected, they were central. They were the living libraries, the ethical compasses, the continuity of the past informing the present and guiding the future. Their stories weren't anecdotes, they were vital lessons, the very glue that held the social fabric together. This integration wasn't benevolent, it was fundamental. The loss of this understanding in modern society is the root cause of our current predicament. What I'm about to share with you, born from decades of observing this architecture of geriatric invisibility and sifting through these suppressed truths, is what I've come to call the Narrative Reclamation Protocol. This isn't just a philosophy, it's a strategic framework for re-engaging with the world on your own terms. It's a method to systematically see and disarm the invisible social wires that have pulled you to the sidelines. It teaches you to recognize the subtle cues of dismissal and to respond not with anger or hurt, but with an unwavering assertion of your continued presence and relevance. It disarms the internalized trap of "my time is over" before it snaps shut on your remaining years. It transforms the feeling of being forgotten into a readable page from society's manual on how to discard people, allowing you to rewrite your own chapter. This protocol, the one I began to forge after my own rupture, after writing that unsent confession, is about understanding that your life story isn't just a collection of memories. It is your most potent weapon against invisibility. It's about turning memory not into a dusty relic, but into something active, vital, something that still informs the present and shapes the future. Your future. When you learn to apply the Narrative Reclamation Protocol, you gain a cognitive armor against irrelevance. You learn to recognize and challenge the systemic narrative gaslighting that tries to replace your vibrant reality with a comfortable, diminished fiction. Imagine these scenes of transformative reclamation, not as distant dreams, but as the immediate, tangible outcomes of applying this protocol. First, imagine yourself sitting with a grandchild. Instead of telling the same safe anecdote they've heard 100 times, the one that elicits the polite, strained smile and quick nod, you share a real, messy story from your youth. A story about a failure you learned from, a fear you overcame, a reckless joy that defied expectations. And you watch their eyes widen. They lean in, captivated, because for the first time, they are meeting the real you. Not the grandparent character, but the complex, flawed, adventurous human being who truly lived. The barrier between generations dissolves, replaced by a genuine human connection. Your story, in that moment, becomes a bridge, a living, breathing connection to a history that now, suddenly, feels intensely relevant to their own unfolding lives. You are no longer just an antique, you are an ancestor, a source of living wisdom, and your narrative, once dismissed, becomes an inheritance. Second, envision yourself waking up. The quiet despair, the empty script of the day, is still there, perhaps, but you don't follow it. Instead, you perform one deliberate act of non-compliant presence. You pick up the phone, not to wait for a call, but to make one. You call someone, a distant friend, a family member you haven't truly connected with in years, and you say not "I'm fine, how are you, but I need to tell you something I've never said." It's a truth, a regret, a piece of your intimate history, finally voiced. It's an act of vulnerability that becomes an act of profound strength. You break the cycle of silent suffering for yourself, not by waiting to be asked, but by proactively asserting your right to be heard. The relief is palpable, not just for you, but often for the person on the other end, who finally feels trusted enough to receive your truth. This isn't just talking, it's a recalibration of relationship, a reassertion of your emotional weight. Third, stand before the mirror. The lines, the jowls, the thinning hair are still there, yes. But you no longer see a fading person, a ghost of your younger self. Instead, you see a living archive, a specialist in a century you helped shape. Your wrinkles are not just signs of age, they are the topography of a map others desperately need to navigate their own future. Your experiences, your triumphs, your heartbreaks, become the currency of wisdom, not the burden of years. You reclaim sovereignty over your own story and your remaining time. Loneliness transforms into an unshakable authority, a quiet power that comes from being unburdened by the need for external validation, because you have validated yourself. You become a testament to resilience, a beacon of truth in a world starved for authentic narrative. This is the internal shift I speak of, the recovery of sovereignty over your own story and your remaining time. This knowledge, this narrative reclamation protocol, is dangerous to the status quo of comfortable neglect. It threatens the convenient fictions that keep you small and invisible. It's a tool, not for making others change, but but for profoundly changing your own relationship to your life, your past, and your future. I will only reveal the first practical step to disarm the invisibility trap to those watching now. This isn't for everyone. This is for the brave. For those who are tired of being processed, acknowledged, and filed away. For those who refuse to accept the quiet disappearance. When your time comes, and it comes for us all, the difference won't be in the years you had, but in the ownership you claimed over the story of those years in the final chapter. Now, here is the key to disarming dismissal, the first step in a protocol designed not just to cope with invisibility, but to dismantle it at its core. This is not about being heard, it's about making it impossible to be ignored, by understanding the mechanics of your own narrative erosion. The initial, transformative action is what I call the narrative reclamation drill. For 1 full week, I want you to carry a small, inconspicuous notebook. This isn't for journaling your day or venting frustration. This notebook is your forensic toolkit. Every single time you feel that familiar shrinking the story interrupted, the patronizing tone, the conversation that inexplicably moves past you as if you've stopped speaking, you don't just swallow it. You don't just feel the familiar ache of being diminished. Instead, you instantly shift from subject to scientist. You document it, swiftly and precisely, with one focused sentence. For example, today, at 2:15 p.m., in the doctor's waiting room, the receptionist used infantilization, a high-pitched, slow voice, to enforce my expected role of passive compliance. Or, this morning, during family breakfast, my son-in-law deployed topic diversion by suddenly asking my daughter about work, effectively silencing my emerging point about community politics. This is not journaling sadness. This is rigorous, objective, forensic sociology applied directly to your own life. You are transforming diffuse emotional injury, the vague sense of being overlooked, into categorized, actionable data. You are moving it from the raw, vulnerable space of the heart to the cool, analytical precision of the mind. By naming the specific tactic and identifying the expected role it attempts to impose upon you, silence, compliance, absence, agreement, you cease to be merely a target of erasure. You instantly become the lead researcher of your own visibility, an expert in the subtle, insidious microaggressions that chip away at your presence. This act of documentation is a psychological lever. It externalizes the perceived slight, allowing you to examine it, not just feel it. It creates a critical distance, turning a personal affront into an observable phenomenon. This isn't about collecting grievances, it's about collecting intelligence. It's about mapping the precise points of attack on your narrative sovereignty, understanding the playbook so intimately that you can predict the next move and, crucially, devise your counter-strategy. The power in this seemingly simple act is immense. It pulls you out of the emotional quicksand of silent suffering and onto the firm ground of intellectual understanding. You stop being a passive recipient of social dynamics and start becoming an active, discerning analyst. You are developing a new kind of literacy, learning to read the invisible language of dismissal, turning every instance of attempted erasure into a data point on your journey back to full presence. Now, listen to this story of reclamation, a powerful testament to what happens when you decide to pick up that notebook and refuse to be a ghost in your own life. I spoke with a woman, let's call her Eleanor, in her late 70s, a retired English teacher with a quick wit and a passion for local history. For years, she told me, her opinions, particularly within her family, had been met with a kind of benevolent dismissal. Her adult children would nod, smile, and murmur "Okay, dear," or "That's interesting, Mom," before seamlessly pivoting to someone else's contribution, often repeating her very point but attributing it elsewhere. Eleanor described feeling her words dissolve into the air, her voice becoming a background hum in her own home. The vibrant intellectual life she cherished had been gradually muted, not with malice, but with a casual disregard born of familiarity and a societal script that often sees older voices as echoes rather than original sources. She started the narrative reclamation drill with deep skepticism, a lingering feeling that it might just be another way to ruminate on her sadness. But after the first few days, something shifted. She began to see patterns, to identify the precise moments and tactics. She logged instances of topic diversion, infantilizing language, preemptive dismissal based on age, and non sequitur responses. The notebook became less a burden and more a lens, sharpening her perception. Then came the third Sunday, a typical family dinner. Her son, David, a busy corporate executive, was holding court, animatedly discussing a news story about a new tech regulation. Eleanor, having spent decades dissecting political discourse, began to offer a nuanced perspective, drawing on historical parallels. Halfway through her sentence, David, without missing a beat, smoothly interjected, "Anyway, what I really think is that these regulations will stifle innovation," completely hijacking her thought, leaving her mid-sentence. Old Eleanor, the one who had spent years shrinking, would have smiled faintly, perhaps even nodded, and faded into the upholstered chair, the familiar knot of unspoken words tightening in her chest. Her internal dialogue would have been a lament, "See? No one cares what I think anymore." But because she was auditing, because she had moved this diffuse emotional injury into her analytical mind, her consciousness flashed a diagnosis, topic diversion to maintain conversational authority. It wasn't an angry thought. It was a clear, almost clinical observation. The psychological antibody had been activated. Instead of anger, there was a quiet, resolute clarity. She waited for the briefest pause after David finished his pronouncement, her gaze steady. Then, in a calm, measured voice, she simply stated, "You diverted the topic when I began to speak, David. I would like to finish my point about the historical precedent for this kind of regulation." The room froze. It wasn't the kind of angry freeze that precedes a family fight. It was the shock of recognition. The shock of a ghost speaking, not with a whisper, but with a voice they had forgotten it possessed. David stammered, visibly taken aback. "Oh, Mom, I'm sorry, I didn't realize." He actually looked apologetic. For the first time in what felt like a decade, the conversational current didn't simply bypass her. It paused. It waited. Eleanor finished her point, articulating her perspective with the grace and intellect that had once defined her. That night, her phone rang. It was David. Not to apologize again, but to ask, "Mom, what did you really think about that tech story? You had a point I think I missed." For the first time in a decade, Eleanor felt truly heard. Not as a mother to be humored, but as a mind to be engaged. That is the shift. That is the undeniable proof that this protocol works. When you diagnose the mechanism of your silence, when you name the specific tactic of erasure, you develop the psychological antibody to it. You disarm its power by recognizing its structure. You move from being swept away by the current to understanding how the current flows, and then, you learn how to redirect it. Eleanor's story is not unique. It's a recurring pattern in the testimonials I've collected from those who have embraced this method. It is the quiet, revolutionary act of self-assertion, not born of bitterness, but of the simple, unassailable truth that your narrative, your voice, your presence, is non-negotiable. This is the intellectual and emotional pivot point, where the diffuse ache of invisibility transforms into the focused power of self-recognition and re-engagement. It's the moment you realize that the silence you've experienced isn't an accident of your age, but an engineered outcome, and that knowing the blueprint is the first step to drafting your own. And speaking of blueprints, let me give you the ultimate proof that your feelings of being managed, rather than truly engaged, are not just valid, but are, in fact, confirmed by the very systems meant to care for you. This document exposes the system of silence, revealing an astonishing, almost cynical, mechanism at play. In 2019, a confidential report from a major senior living solutions conglomerate, a multi-billion-dollar entity that operates hundreds of assisted living facilities, independent living communities, and specialized memory care units across North America, was quietly leaked. It found its way into the hands of a trusted gerontology researcher, a whistleblower committed to revealing the truth about elder care models. The report's internal title was chillingly corporate: Market Optimization, Managing Resident Autonomy versus Operational Efficiency. Think about that title for a moment. It frames human autonomy, the very essence of a person's selfhood, as a variable to be managed in opposition to operational efficiency, the profit motive. Turn to page 14 of this leaked document, and you will find a line that should make every hair on your body stand on end. It reads, "Programs emphasizing busyness and positivity reduce complaints related to existential distress by 72% and lower demands on staff time, while requiring no structural change to the paternalistic care model. They are the most cost-effective tool for managing the problem of late-life meaning." Let that sink in. This isn't just about bingo and craft hour being harmless fun. This is about a calculated, deliberate strategy. The primary goal of many of the activities offered in these environments is not, as you might hope, to genuinely enrich your life, to foster deep connection, or to facilitate profound personal growth. No. The explicit, documented purpose is to manage your discontent, to occupy your time and attention so that the larger machine of benign neglect, of a paternalistic care model that disempowers you, runs smoother. They are literally engineering a form of contented silence. They are creating an environment where existential dread, the deep human need for purpose, meaning, and agency is treated as a complaint to be suppressed, not a legitimate human experience to be addressed. The bingo games, the sing-alongs, the repetitive, low-engagement activities, these are often not designed for your flourishing, but for your pacification. They are a cost-effective way to keep you occupied, happy enough, and crucially, silent enough, so that you don't demand structural changes, so you don't ask challenging questions, so you don't disrupt the operational efficiency that prioritizes profit over personhood. This document is the smoking gun. It is the undeniable proof that you are not crazy for feeling empty amidst the forced smiles and endless activities. You are not imagining the underlying current of being managed. You are not misinterpreting the subtle message that your deepest needs are a problem for the system. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's a candid, internal corporate analysis revealing the truth of how systemic ageism manifests in the very structures that ostensibly exist to support you. It validates every vague unease you might have felt, every moment you've questioned whether your life was truly being honored or merely being administered. But here's the critical pivot: knowing this blueprint is the first, monumental step to drafting your own. Once you understand that your feelings are not a personal failing but a rational response to an engineered environment, you can begin to dismantle that environment's power over you. You can choose to redefine what truly enriches your life, what brings genuine meaning, and what activities honor your intelligence and spirit, rather than merely occupying your time. This revelation is not meant to foster bitterness, but rather, a profound sense of clarity and empowerment. It is the moment you transform from a participant in their script to the author of your own. You realize the game is rigged, yes, but you also realize that you have the power to stop playing by their rules. Imagine your perfect Wednesday, not as an escape from reality, but as reality reimagined, shaped by your reclaimed narrative. You wake up, and your first thought isn't "what do I have to do for others today," or "what mundane tasks await," but "what do I have to say, what do I have to discover, what impact will I make?" You meet a friend for coffee, a friend who used to dominate the conversation with stories of their grandchildren's latest achievements. But today, something is different. They start to tell you about the soccer game, yes, but then they pause, genuinely look into your eyes, and ask, "But what do you think about all this? I've been so focused on my own things lately, and I've realized I haven't really heard your perspective on anything important." And you share, not with a sense of trying to be heard, but with the quiet authority of knowing your voice is valued. Later, at the doctor's office, the nurse, well-meaning but rushed, begins speaking in that slow, overly enunciated, slightly louder voice, as if you've lost both your hearing and your comprehension skills. You don't get angry. You don't feel diminished. You simply and gently interrupt, a small, polite smile on your face. "I can hear you perfectly well at a normal volume, thank you. Please proceed." The adjustment is instant. The nurse's tone shifts, becoming respectful, professional. The interaction proceeds with an assumption of your full cognitive faculty. You go home, feeling not tired or drained by the interactions, but energized by the clarity and self-respect you've maintained. Your daughter calls, rushing through small talk, clearly preoccupied. Instead of automatically saying "I'm fine, dear," and letting the conversation drift, you gently interject, "Wait. Before we go there, let me tell you about something I realized today, something quite profound." And she listens. She truly listens. Not out of obligation, but out of a renewed understanding that you are a wellspring of wisdom and experience. You hang up the phone, not with the old emptiness of an unexpressed life, but with a sense of completion, of having genuinely connected, of having left your authentic mark on the day. You walk to the chair by the window, your favorite spot. It's no longer just a place to watch the world go by, a passive perch for an observer. It is your command post. It is the throne from which you survey your sovereign life, a life where your narrative is not just tolerated but celebrated, where your presence is not just accommodated but actively sought. This is what happens when you stop playing the role written for you by society's convenient scripts and start writing your own lines. This is the peace that comes not from resignation, but from reclamation. This is the connection that flows not from being agreeable, but from being authentically present. This is the day-to-day reality of someone who has understood the system of erasure, confronted it, and ultimately, transcended it. It is a life lived with intentionality, agency, and an unshakable narrative authority. Your past is not erased, your present is not stifled, and your future is not dictated by anyone but you. This is not a dream, it is the inevitable outcome of mastering the art of narrative sovereignty. So now you hold the first key. You've heard the undeniable proof from lives reclaimed from the silence of social erasure. You've seen the corporate memo that admits passivity is often the intended product of systems designed for efficiency. You can vividly visualize the sovereign life that is not just possible, but your absolute birthright. This means you are ready. Ready for the complete architecture of this liberation. Ready for the step-by-step system to not just notice the next dismissal, not just diagnose it, but to actively dismantle its power to erase your past, to stifle your present, or to dictate your future. This journey has shown you the hidden mechanism, exposed the manipulation, and offered the first potent tool for resistance. But awareness without precise, consistent action is just a more precise form of suffering. And you? You have too much left to say, too much wisdom to impart, too much life to live fully, to ever settle for that again. Stay right here. The final stage, the complete protocol, awaits. The silence that often follows dismissive encounters, the subtle shivers of being overlooked, these are not just fleeting moments of discomfort. They are echoes, accumulating in the quiet chambers of the soul, gradually eroding the vibrant tapestry of a life well lived. For too long, you felt the brush of invisibility, the gentle, yet persistent, suggestion that your era is receding, that your stories are quaint echoes, not vital contributions. But that ends now. This understanding isn't just about decoding the dismissal, it's about actively disarming it, day by day, breath by breath. It is about furnishing you with a practical, profound protocol designed to restore your inherent right to presence, to voice, and to the glorious continuation of your own unfolding narrative. Consider this your complete reclamation protocol, a sovereignty manual for the vibrant chapters ahead, built not on arduous tasks but on subtle, powerful shifts in awareness and intention. It asks not for a grand rebellion, but for a daily, gentle revolution of the self. Our journey through this reclamation begins with Step 1, the daily sovereignty audit. For the next 7 days, I invite you to implement the naming exercise, which we've discussed, but with a crucial upgrade. You won't just note the dismissal when it occurs, you will become the meticulous cartographer of its emotional payload. As soon as you feel that familiar internal flinch, that quiet sigh, that subtle diminishment, pause. And ask yourself, is this a wound of irrelevance, the sting of being overlooked, of your presence being treated as peripheral, your insights unneeded? Is it a sting of condescension, the prick of being talked down to, infantilized, or having your capabilities doubted without cause? Or is it an ache of silenced memory, the sharp pang of your story being cut off, your wisdom dismissed as antiquated, your lived experience deemed less valuable than a fleeting trend? This act of precise categorization is not about dwelling in the negative, it is about shining a powerful, illuminating light into the shadows of your emotional landscape. It transforms vague, amorphous discomfort into specific, addressable data. At the end of each day, in the quiet solitude of your own space, take a moment to reflect on these categorized moments. Give each one a score from 1 to 5 on how much it dimmed your light, how profoundly it made you feel smaller, less present, less you. This is not an exercise in self-pity, it is an act of rigorous, compassionate self-assessment. You are turning your pain, your subtle grievances, into a detailed map. And remember, a map gives you power over the territory. It allows you to navigate, to understand where the currents are strongest, where the reefs lie hidden. You are no longer merely enduring, you are observing, analyzing, and beginning the profound work of strategic self-defense. This first step is deceptively simple, yet monumentally powerful because it restores your cognitive control. It takes the vague, often disorienting fog of feeling bad or being overlooked and transforms it into specific, actionable data. Instead of being swept away by a wave of unidentifiable negativity, you are now equipped with precise labels, with distinct categories. This act of naming, of scoring, of defining the nature of the emotional impact, directly fights the insidious helplessness that social erasure can instill. You are no longer a passive recipient of these slights, you are an active, discerning observer, an emotional scientist studying a phenomenon. This process of audit and categorization directly anchors you back into your autonomy. You are actively choosing to understand your inner world, to take charge of your emotional responses, rather than letting them be dictated by external forces. It's an assertion of your intellectual sovereignty, a quiet but firm declaration that your emotional landscape is yours to understand and navigate, and that no external dismissal can negate that inherent right. This step is about rediscovering your inner compass, calibrating it with exquisite precision, and setting a course for greater self-possession. It's about turning passive suffering into active, informed self-awareness, which is the foundational stone of all true liberation. Moving into the realm of active healing, we arrive at step 2, the 60-second reclamation ritual. Once you have named and scored the day's dismissals, you will perform this brief, yet profound, mental ritual. Find a quiet moment, wherever you are, perhaps in your favorite chair, by a window, or even just sitting up in bed. Close your eyes gently. Breathe in slowly, deeply, filling your lungs with a sense of calm. As you inhale, in your mind, you say, "I see you," name the feeling. If it was a wound of irrelevance, you would mentally whisper, "I see you, wound of irrelevance." If it was a sting of condescension, you acknowledge, "I see you, sting of condescension." You are not engaging with it, you are simply witnessing it, acknowledging its presence without allowing it to dominate. Then, still with your eyes closed, you continue mentally, "You are a visitor, not a resident. You came from outside, from a world that forgets. You do not define my home." This is a powerful, internal boundary-setting declaration. It differentiates between your intrinsic self and the external narratives projected onto you. Then, you breathe out slowly, visualizing that specific feeling, that categorized diminishment, gently leaving your body with your exhale. Imagine it as a wisp of smoke, dissolving into the air, or a leaf floating down a stream, moving away from you. It is released, not repressed. With that space created, you breathe in again, this time placing a hand gently on your heart, or on your knee if that's easier and more comfortable for you. And you whisper, or simply think with profound conviction, one true thing about yourself that the moment tried to erase. This is where your enduring essence steps forward. It might be, "I am a teacher," if your wisdom was overlooked. "I built a home," if your contributions felt minimized. "I know how to fix an engine," if your competence was doubted. "I loved deeply," if your emotional richness was dismissed. "I raised children, I cared for a spouse, I gardened, I wrote poetry, I ran a business." Whatever it is, it must be a truth that grounds you, a permanent fixture of your soul that no casual slight can ever dismantle. This ritual is your psychic broom. It diligently sweeps out the dust of other people's disregard, the debris of their limited perceptions, and powerfully reaffirms the permanent, cherished furniture of your soul. It reinforces that your worth is not contingent on external validation, but an inherent, undeniable truth. This practice serves as essential emotional hygiene for the soul. In a world that constantly bombards you with narratives that can diminish your worth, this ritual carves out a sacred, private space. In this space, the world's often unflattering narrative about aging is replaced entirely by your own truth. It is a sanctuary where you consciously choose to detach from the external noise and reconnect with the immutable core of who you are. This ritual directly repairs self-worth, not by seeking external praise, but by reinforcing an internal sense of value and permanence. It is a powerful affirmation of your legacy, not in grand public gestures, but in the quiet, undeniable truth of your own life's contributions and experiences. By acknowledging and releasing the visitor feelings, and then reaffirming your enduring truths, you are actively participating in the ongoing creation and preservation of your personal legacy, ensuring that the wisdom and love you've accumulated remain vibrant and accessible to you, first and foremost. This ritual strengthens your connection to yourself, a connection that is often fractured by the insidious nature of social erasure. It's a daily act of self-love, a firm declaration that you are worthy of your own attention, your own care, and your own undeniable truth. Finally, we arrive at step 3, the microscript of presence. This is your practical, external tool, designed to be deployed gently and effectively in the next social encounter, when you anticipate or encounter a familiar dismissal. Having identified the categories of dismissal in step 1, you can now proactively equip yourself with one simple, gracious, yet utterly unassailable sentence for each category. These aren't combative statements, they are planks of your own presence, laid down calmly and firmly in the conversational flow, inviting others to walk on the same ground you stand upon. For the wound of irrelevance, where you feel overlooked or your voice dismissed before it's even heard, your microscript is, I'd like to add something to that, if I may. The if I may is a gentle invitation, not a plea, asserting your right to contribute without demanding. It's polite, yet firm, creating a small, undeniable space for your voice. For the sting of condescension, when you feel talked down to, infantilized, or treated as less capable, your microscript becomes, I appreciate your help, but I've got this. Or, thank you for the suggestion, I'm capable of handling it. This acknowledges their intention, often misguided help, but firmly reclaims your competence and agency. It's a statement of self-sufficiency, delivered with calm confidence. And for the ache of silenced memory, when your rich life experiences are cut short or ignored, your microscript is simply, that reminds me of a time. And then you just begin speaking, calmly, sharing your relevant memory or insight. You do not wait for permission, you do not ask if they want to hear. You simply pivot the conversation, gently and naturally, to the wellspring of your own experience. You are not starting a fight or issuing a challenge with these scripts. You are not seeking to shame or embarrass anyone. Instead, you are modeling, through your action, how to be with you. You are teaching people, through a calm, consistent assertion of your presence, how to truly engage, to listen, and to respect the full, vibrant person before them. These microscripts are not about being aggressive, they are about being present, deliberately and unapologetically. This step, the microscript of presence, serves as a powerful tool for resocialization on your own terms. Years of experiencing social erasure can lead to a kind of social atrophy, where the muscle of assertive, confident interaction weakens from disuse. You might find yourself withdrawing, speaking less, or allowing others to dominate conversations simply because the effort of asserting yourself feels too great or too fraught with potential for further dismissal. These microscripts are designed to rebuild that muscle. They provide you with pre-formulated, low-effort, high-impact responses that bypass the need for on-the-spot improvisation, which can be draining. By having these gentle yet firm phrases ready, you can engage in social interactions from a place of strength and preparedness, rather than vulnerability or need. This fosters genuine connection, not by demanding attention, but by confidently asserting your right to participate. It allows you to step back into the flow of conversation, to contribute your unique perspective, and to be seen as the capable, experienced individual you are. This re-engagement, on your terms, significantly enhances your autonomy in social settings, transforming potentially diminishing encounters into opportunities for authentic, respectful interaction. It's about not just being in the room, but being fully present in the room, voice and all. Now, you might be thinking, but where will I find the energy for all this? My answer to you, with all the compassion and urgency I can muster, is this: you can start step 1, the daily sovereignty audit, in the quiet after this video ends, or tomorrow morning with your first cup of tea. What are you preserving your energy for? Another season of polite shrinking? Another quiet agreement to diminish yourself, to fade into the background? This protocol doesn't demand energy from you in the way that fighting or resisting might. On the contrary, it returns energy to you. It ends the silent, insidious drain of accepting invisibility, of internalizing the message that your time is over. The constant vigilance required to navigate a world that tries to erase you, the internal effort of suppressing your own voice, the emotional labor of processing dismissal and silence, these are the true energy vampires. This protocol replaces the draining acceptance with deliberate, gentle action. It's not about making noise for the sake of it. It's about making your presence deliberate, conscious, and therefore profoundly energizing. It's an investment in your own enduring vitality. The liberation this process offers is not a distant promise, it is available to you, now, in the very next breath you take, in the very next thought you choose to cure it. You are not a vessel to be emptied, you are a wellspring to be drawn from. And the only one who can grant permission for that drawing is you. As we reach the closing of this shared journey, remember that the deepest human need, especially as we gather the harvests of a lone life, is to be truly seen, to be understood, and to know that your life's rich tapestry has enduring meaning. Solitude, the kind that feels like isolation, is the sharpest antidote to this need, but solidarity, genuine connection, is its most potent medicine. If anything in this video resonated with the quiet truths of your own experience, I implore you, share it. Share it with just one persona friend from the old neighborhood, someone you recognize at your community center, a family member who might benefit from this understanding. Don't let this newfound clarity, this empowering understanding, die in the quiet of your apartment or within the confines of your own mind. Let it travel. Let it spark a conversation. Let it build an unseen network of people who choose, actively and courageously, to live seen. And that like button you see below? It's not for me. It's not about boosting an algorithm for my benefit. It is your flag in the digital ground. It's your quiet, yet powerful, declaration, I was here. I am here. My attention matters. My experience has value. Every click tells the vast, impersonal algorithm that stories for and about use about the richness of life's later chapters, about wisdom and resilience have profound value. Plant your flag. Make your quiet assertion visible. Then, let's make this real, together. This is where we transcend the screen and create something truly impactful. Comment "My story matters" below. Just those 3 words. Imagine a scroll of affirmation, a living testament to presence, that anyone feeling the chill of invisibility can read and instantly feel less alone, less marginal. Your words, simple as they may be, become part of someone else's lifeline, a beacon in their own moments of doubt. And please, this is our conversation now, ask your questions. Share your reflections. Let this comments section become a vibrant exchange, a true community of the truly seen. Finally, save this video. Bookmark it. Return to it. This isn't just another piece of content, it is your field guide to remaining a person in a world that, through benign neglect or unwitting oversight, too often tries to turn you into a concept, a demographic, a fading memory. When the silence feels too loud, when the subtle slights accumulate, come back here. Replay Step 2, the 60-second reclamation ritual. Let my voice, for a moment, remind you of your own inherent power, of your own glorious and undeniable truth. Let it be a touchstone, a gentle anchor in the shifting currents of external perception. The final choice, my dear friends, is not between activity and passivity. It is between curation and abandonment. You are the sole, irreplaceable curator of your final, magnificent exhibit, the exhibit of your own life. Will you allow others, with their limited perspectives and hurried judgments, to write the placards that explain you, to define your worth, to summarize your story? Or will you take the pen yourself? Will you meticulously, lovingly, and truthfully write those placards, affirming the richness, the depth, and the undeniable significance of every single chapter you have lived? This complete reclamation protocol, these gentle yet powerful steps, this is your pen. You have lived too much, loved too hard, navigated too many storms, and survived too long to become a ghost in your own life, to be relegated to the margins of your own narrative. Take the pen. Hold it firmly. Write one true sentence today about who you are, what you've learned, what you still feel. Then write another tomorrow. This is not just how we reclaim our stories, it is how we reclaim our very souls, how we assert our indelible mark on the world, how we ensure that our light continues to shine, brightly and unapologetically. Now, go and be, gloriously and unapologetically, here.